Welcome, welcome, welcome. Here we are with another bracket race. Winners bracket, round one. PhoenixFeather on one side versus Kariossa on the other side. Seed number 7 versus seed number 26. I brought you two amazing commentators who lead you through this, and also two awesome trackers. Welcome to Yoshi-Kyun, FQF, Tommel Talk, and Faith.
Hello, hello.
What's up?
I am looking forward to this race. This, I think, obviously there's a lot of reasons to care about a lot of the races here. I think this one is one of the most variable ones. I think these are two runners that people do not know what to expect from.
I would agree. I think even more so, I think these are two runners that people are kind of sleeping on. Kariossa has definitely made a name for himself as far as weekly races go, and PhoenixFeather maybe not so much early on, but definitely in more recent races, he's been fantastic. And I would say definitely my dark horse candidate to make a very deep run in the whole bracket.
He's definitely kind of almost like a surprise entry here. Like, looking at 7th seed, and there are some really big names that got knocked down a few spots, and PhoenixFeather just shot up. Both players started running rando this year, which is terrifying for everyone else. Whoever wins, it's both a scary opponent for their next round, and someone that they might kind of underestimate.
Very true, very true. And we're T-minus 10 seconds away from kicking off. Reminder that the race is on a delay for competitive reasons, but we should be underway here shortly. And there we go. We're off.
PhoenixFeather with that bright pink. You gotta love it, right?
Kariossa, I believe, asked for did apologize for his tunic color, I think.
Yeah.
I don't think that's that bad, to be perfectly honest.
I think it's the lesser of... it's the least bad of the two.
So we have a huge rupee in Mido's house to kick things off. So that could be incentive to... Yeah, nothing else. Let's see what we've got in our Kokiri sword chest here. A piece of heart. So it could be incentive to go toward the Deku tree, buy all the equipment you need for that.
Right, but, Kariossa hasn't. Karyossa's gone.
Yeah, Kariossa is leaving the forest, going on ahead. I don't hate it. This is pretty standard play here, going towards the South Hyrule, the open grotto down there. I'm not super familiar with Karyossa's routing, if he will take the owl back to Hyrule Castle or not.
I know that's something that a lot of runners in the French community have really been pushing a lot recently, and that's where Kariossa came into this from, was watching people like Marco and Necro run. So I imagine, there's quite a lot being picked up from around those.
Right.
You get that early divergence though.
Yeah, this is good for us up here in the booth. With PhoenixFeather going and making that push for Deku.
That was a hell of a start.
Yeah, that's an interesting hint. Got the prescription on 40 gold Skulltulas.
Yikes.
That's very involved.
Also, it's worth noting here, so the path that Kariossa is doing does take some fairly precise movement. If you pick up the hint, you have to be almost inch perfect. If you don't, you've got a bit more leeway with it, but it's still quite tight, and Kariossa did have a bit of trouble with the movement just outside, so we'll see how tight the time of day is here.
Seems King Zora is freezing King Zora is not worth it this seed. Just a piece of heart on that. Kariossa looks good here. Should be able to make it. We have our first Way of the Hero hint for Sacred Forest Meadow, which those new to randomizer or unfamiliar with the terminology, Way of the Hero means that one of the checks, either the songs or items in Sacred Forest Meadow, are required by the logic of the randomizer to complete the seed. So it's likely something very important there.
So here's always like a hot topic with just, I think everyone in the community has different ideas on it. Opening routes. We've seen Kariossa do open grotto as well. We've seen early Deku, like strengths and weaknesses, favorites, least favorites. Like, I'm a big fan of early Deku. I definitely think early Deku, where possible, is amazing.
But... oh, how the times have changed.
Right. I used to hate it, and yeah, no, it's just the best now. So some big hints there at the Temple of Time. We've got the second Sacred Forest Meadow, Spinning Pot dead, Frogs 2 dead, that's fine. OOT Epona.
Interesting. Because that can lead to a logical all dungeon situation.
Right, it's like, I was gonna say 3 checks, but two and a half checks where it's actually required. But it can be some real bait for Gerudo training grounds.
The other one is a Spinning Pot dead, which is, well, should delight PhoenixFeather when he finds that out. The runners provide us with sort of interview questions and notes that we follow along with, and PhoenixFeathers was basically summed up by him saying, can we just remove Goron Pot?
Also, Kariossa did just get rewarded there, the Kokiri Forest Baron hint at the castle. Kariossa never opened the sword chest. So there's just like a nice little bit of a time save. And that's the reason that people have started doing that, is you can pick it up after Deku Tree on the way back, but if you get that hint here, you should save a bit of time. Like, it's quite a lot of time walking around that area.
And that is one of the sort of meta divergences of sort of the Marco school of thought in terms of routing.
There's been a lot of kind of big innovations lately with that, and like just before season 3 started, really, you had the Open Grotto Twal innovation like stuff coming up, and then skipping a Kokiri sword chest, and obviously people were skipping the Dampe races until it became one race for both rewards, at which point you never skip it. It's kind of interesting seeing that things are still developing and still evolving. And I imagine we'll see more of it happen through the bracket. I imagine we'll see some innovations as we go through the tournament.
Right. It's very much different from season 2, where it felt like you saw a lot of the same plays and not a lot of, variations. But after season 2, it feels like people have really gotten to their speedrunning roots and worked hard to try to drive down times and just make the small optimizations. And it's not identical to speedrunning. Like, you can't perfect your route in that sort of a way. A weird freeze from Kariossa's side, but it seems to be okay.
A few stars there.
But yeah, just that very people are trying to figure out how to break randomizer, and it's interesting to see what they can do.
Right, even season 2 had its elements, the early adult river and stuff like that. And then there was the kind of showcase match, the ACC versus Marco going into this tournament, that showcased a kind of new early adult route. But yeah, it's kind of interesting. There's still, people are generally sticking with the kind of tried and tested at the moment. I'm interested to see where Kariossa goes from here, because this is something that I've been talking to a lot of people about recently. Oh wow, both just got tunics, one after the other.
Fashion wars continue.
But yeah, this is something I've been talking to a lot of people about, and I think is really interesting to watch as the tournament. Was that a stone from? Oh,
it's a stone from a practically barren Deku tree.
Yikes! That's so. We imagine this is going to be in all dungeons for Epona, at least logically, right?
It seems pretty likely here, just for that access. I would need to double check on what the third stone is. I don't know if we've had a
we've not had anything yet. No.
Not had a pedestal check.
But the thing I was going to say, and Kariossa just saved quitting out actually, so that's interesting to note. I think this is something that's going to develop as the tournament goes on. Right now, a lot of people have been talking about Gerudo Valley and whether you do the Gerudo Valley checks early. And people are starting to skip them more and more and more. And I think it's going to get to the point where people don't want, like, people take the risk to check Gerudo Valley early because the hints and the items there could pay off. And then after a few times of that working out for someone, people will start picking it up again because they'll be like, oh, I didn't do this last time and I got punished. And I think it's going to kind of ebb and flow as it works or doesn't work for people.
Well, it's the same as Dampe, right? It's 2 checks that take a very long time to complete, and Dampe is different now. One of the major changes from the season 2 rule set was the fast Dampe, where now you only need to complete 1 race in under a minute to get both items. So now Dampe's objectively worth it just for the time spent.
Mm-hmm.
But before, I was a major advocate against ever doing Dampe, because it seemed like every time I did Dampe, it wasn't worth it.
I think the big difference for Gerudo Valley is, firstly, it gets you to Lake Hylia, so it's the early Scarecrow, it's the fishing there and looking at the diving piece and everything, but also the number of hints you get on that route is huge. And I think that's the biggest difference, is how much people value the hints or don't. If you're going to early Gerudo Valley, you're doing it because you want 4 hints more than anything.
Yeah, that is the strength of that early Gerudo Valley into Lake play historically, was the information. It was like, if you didn't really get anything in Kokiri Forest, that was a good play to get like 5 hints very early on. It leads right into Hyrule Castle, where there's 4 hints outside Temple of Time and 2 on the way up to Zelda. I'd argue that the randomizer is more hint driven than it was even back then.
So we got a pedestal check there. Spirit is the stone and water is the forest medallion.
So if we see Requiem of Spirit, do we buy into the logical all dungeons theory here?
Chat's pointing out that it's Way of the Hero as well. So we have Way of the Hero, Stone Spirit. What are the odds that Sacred Forest Meadow has Requiem at this point? Like, that's feeling pretty high.
Yeah, I think that's pretty likely.
I guess at the same time it could be Zelda's Lullaby, it could be Saria's or Minuet to get to the other one in the forest. But yeah, that's I think at this point you just do it anyway because you're going to Spirit. You might as well clear it while you're there. I guess it depends on how much you've got by the time you get there, but
I guess it depends if you want to do all of Spirit except Twin Rova only to have to go back later.
Yeah, who would do that? Who would do that?
But that's unthinkable. That would never happen, right?
Oh, what I was more thinking, like, being serious for a second, what I was actually thinking was more, if you go to Spirit for the Way of the Hero without the Mirror Shield. Whoa!
Ooh!
Oh, that is... okay. So 30 Skulls has a hook shot.
Wow.
That's nice. That's... So you got to collect your 30 without the hook shot. Assuming that's the first one.
Presumably, right.
Yeah.
Okay. That's very doable. So now we're dealing with a Skulltula seed.
Oh, always
So-
always fun. Everyone's favorite quirks in the logic, right?
So
I'm so glad we have Toxic in chat for this.
shout outs to Toxic Oxygen, our resident logic expert, and all around great viewer. So again, I'm not super familiar with the runners themselves, just their pedigrees. I'm not sure which of them, if either, is a better router of skulls.
Yeah, I'm not sure on that. The one thing that I know more than anything is that Kariossa plays very risky. Kariossa is the type of player who will make a lot of kind of big gambles, and so can sometimes get massively rewarded by getting an item really early, and sometimes can just like skip over the most obvious thing and have it backfire.
Right, and somebody in chat was pointing out that Kariossa is kind of a forfeit machine. I don't expect that here, of course, this being a brackets match and all that, but it does speak to that notion of risky plays and do you or don't you bet against it. Now, given that hint is in a early location that people are going to check it, he's not gonna go against that. Like he'll check the pedestal as well, I presume. Water's your forest medallion. You know it's required to get both hook shots.
Right.
You can't just ignore it.
Right, yeah. Kariossa hasn't gone there yet, but will before going to Kakariko, presumably. So nice early explosives there. Wonder how many we're going to get. This is going to be a fun seed in terms of logic. We've got skulls, we've got early bomb chews. Like, the runners are going to be so far away from the logic that...
Ooh,
is that
that's magic.
That was a magic meter.
Interesting.
So, for anyone who's used to the weekly races, by the way, one of the big things for Season 3 was no ice traps. So we do know that magic meter is real. That is 100% a magic meter up there. They just need to get to it.
Ooh. And a big boy sword.
Is Kariossa checking the hint here and nothing else, just coming in for the hint and leaving again?
That's worth it.
I like it. Nope, Kariossa's forgotten the...
Just a 5-pack.
Okay.
From Pompeii.
Ah. So I wonder how much... So here's another thing that a lot of runners kind of differentiate on and like differ on. I wonder how much Phoenix will kind of save scum the bond choose to check things out of logic.
Well, depends where he turns here.
No?
I was thinking he...
Yeah, the save into Dongo's cavern to... Alright, we did get a London Ranch Way the hero, which... Oh, with a bomb bag!
Well, there you go.
Lon Ranch was Nocturne, so unsurprising. Was also a Zora tunic. Oh no, Goron tunic.
The
Sorry.
Goron tunic.
Yeah, Zora tunic was the. How was that one again? I've already forgotten.
I believe Talon had the Goron tunic.
Oh, and Goma had the Zora tunic, wasn't it?
Yeah, right. The other Kokiri Baron hint.
I guess the fact that Phoenix has gone early adult and not even picked up the castle song yet means Phoenix now gets to skip the Storm's Grotto in Kokiri Forest.
Yeah, so Phoenix playing pretty smart here, rushing that way of the hero. And when you don't have a lot of direction early on, that tends to be the best strategy. Very nice setup there.
Love it, that was smooth.
War Masters of Lost.
Second on the ranch hint. It's worth noting for anyone who doesn't know on these settings, every hint will appear twice. So if we see 3 of a Way of the Hero, that means it's basically required twice. There are 2 major items there. Also a bow. I actually missed the bow there.
It was the memory game,
Yeah.
the Ocarina mini game.
Unsurprisingly, Zelda's Lullaby, Way of the Hero. Nothing on Big Goron.
And that is logically available very early on because Sarius to get Mido to move out of the way puts that in logic.
That's going to make that early adult play actually really valuable as well, because going straight there, getting Zelda's Lullaby, and then going Child, like, Phoenix has Bomb Shoes and can check the Castle Fairy on the way up.
Right. Now we will see the remainder of Sacred Forest out here on Kariossa's side. So, potential for there to at least be some question about it. The bomb drop there for the Wolfos Grotto. So it's definitely one of the songs, if not just Zelda's Lullaby outright.
Mm-hmm. Regarding breaking sticks, being asked in chat, there was a video posted not too long ago in the OoTR Discord in, I want to say, strategy discussion, that was a whole bunch of different setups and ways to get broken sticks in different locations, and some of the setups were really interesting.
And that was interesting. It was Serenade from the Sarius song check. It was Serenade of Water.
Just that Zelda's Lullaby then.
Yes, just Zelda's Lullaby.
Which, to be fair, we know is required from Shadow being a medallion.
Right.
But probably worth a bit more than that as well. It tends to be fairly useful. Yeah. Or is it something like 98? I can't remember the stats on it now of how often Zelda's Lullaby is required in a rando seed. But I know it was above 98%. I think it was 99 point something actually.
Once, I think there was a weekly seed that Zelda's Lullaby was only required for Key Logic and Spirit Temple.
Wow.
It's I guess it's not that surprising that Zelda's Lullaby is required almost all the time, especially when several dungeons require you to use it to get anywhere in them.
Especially some of the more kind of complex ones logically.
Right. Like Water and Spirit and Shadow, where you just need it hard required. Kariossa opted not to check the castle fairy there.
Alright, Phoenix not getting a fairy, Kariossa not able to afford fishing. This is this is something. We are gonna get some hints from Kariossa though. Some song in the desert. So we actually have a really good number of hints already. Another hint for the sun song being in the desert. And the market.
Foolish. Wow.
That is good timing for that as well, because that's probably Kariossa, you know, will get this owl in a bit to go back towards the market and back towards adult with bombs. And Goron City?
City Way of the Hero.
Okay. Cool.
Now remember, Phoenix went to Goron City, but just passed through. He didn't do anything there. All he did was open the shortcut to the Lost Woods.
Right, yeah.
Kariossa's still out of money. You can't buy the item from the scrub.
Yeah, this tree here drops 3 rupees. You roll into that, go into the grotto, come back out, get the 3 rupees again.
Kariossa's just leaving it behind. Just going
If that
on.
has something, that if that all fishing is relevant, that could be a game changer right there already. Oh, and the other market foolishness there. So the thing I was going to say is Kariossa's next stop is presumably to go adult, which includes going through the market with bomb shoes. With bombs, sorry, to do bomb shoe bowling. So actually getting those hints there is really good.
Yeah, that's a good one up. Because those market checks, if you have NA aim like myself, then those can take some time.
Also, yeah, Kariossa getting paid a little bit too late.
Could have just walked back, but nah.
Too slow by the time you got there. At that point, you're checking the scrub grotto as an adult, and you're hoping that child fishing is just useless. You're writing it off. More money. Here, keep going.
So these way the hero hints are very bad.
Yes.
Right now, it's Zelda's Lullaby in Sacred Forest Meadow, and Nocturne, and maybe a Goron Tunic in Lon Lon Ranch. These are...
Oh! Phoenix going to the graveyard?
Check this and maybe do the well.
I guess this makes sense though. You would normally save quit out of London Ranch to go back to Lost Woods. You can do that from here. Ah, the stick, the broken stick. That's so
That
good.
was so good. Oh wow.
This is what I was saying earlier. There was a video in strategy discussion that was posted of a whole bunch of broken stick setups. That was one of them. Not one that you see very often though. Alright, so Kariossa is going to see stones and medallions over there and realise that one way of the heroes... Oh, Phoenix getting Minuet. Like, that's just going to make that Saria routing even better. Now, instead of safe quitting back to Kakiri Forest, you walk there. That's... Attempt 2.
Go. Got that flame storage down. Oh, blocked by the door. Yeah, it's not worth more than one attempt.
Oh, no, absolutely not, yeah.
Ah, so Phoenix was attempting a trick known as flame storage, which you take out a Deku stick, put the stick away, and then take it out away from the torch, and the game thinks that you've just run the stick through the torch. And this is helpful to sort of put fire in your pocket and burn things you should be able to burn at long distances away, like those torches in the Composer's Grave.
Right, the torch still has to be loaded for it to work, so there's only a handful of locations that it's actually relevant, but that is one of them.
And that one's the biggest sequence break where normally you would need fire magic, like fire arrows or Din's fire to light those torches.
I think Kariossa just died from... Yeah.
Did.
Did that play void out?
F's in chat.
Also, Phoenix there using up the last bomb shoe here, but is just going to reset a way to keep it. Yep. So yeah, there's not a whole lot to work with here. I guess Dodongo's Cavern, but that's about it.
And that makes the most sense. It's one of your medallions, and the well too,
yeah,
especially in PhoenixFeather's shoes, where he's already child, got storms, got Zelda's Lullaby. Let's see if Phoenix also forgets.
Has Phoenix seen it yet? Yes. Okay.
Yes. Just
oh,
going
of course.
for the hint.
It was on the way to Zelda's on the way to the castle, wasn't it? So it is worth noting we did have a spinning pot hint for Goron City, so as far as that Goron City Way of the Hero goes, as child, that's only, I guess, 2 checks that you can only get as child, and then 2 that you can get as either child or adult.
Right, and there is one check that that our runners are locked out of right now. In the boulder maze, the hammer rocks, they don't have access to that yet.
I was going to say, these runners get to avoid one of the things we've already seen in these brackets of all dungeons to check Darunia in Way of the Hero, Goron City.
So far, I'd have to say the routing is working out, and at least for efficiency's sake, it's working out more in Phoenix's favor.
I agree, I think. It's a minor difference so far. Like, I don't think there's that much between them, but it's enough.
Because if Goron City is one of those 2 child checks, Phoenix has just realized he has that opportunity now to go and check those things.
Mm-hmm. Which, to be fair, Kariossa can go up towards Goron City and then back around to Dodongo's Cavern afterwards as well.
Right.
I think it might be worth... So here's a question. Do you Dodongo's Cavern first and then go, like... Because it's, like, it puts you down near Kakariko, so it's a longer walk to get back to Goron City. Or do you go to Goron City first and then just cry a little bit if you find your hammer in Dodongo's Cavern?
I feel like you want to do Dodongo's Cavern first, just because it's a very fast dungeon and it's a medallion dungeon. You know it's required.
I think generally speaking, doing if you can full clear an area and you cannot full clear the other, do the one you can full clear first, because you might find the stuff you need to clear the other.
Yes, that makes the most sense. And I advocate especially for pushing medallion dungeons when you have that opportunity.
Yes, definitely.
For that very reason, that you can find the item for your next medallion dungeon. Case in point being the several of the qualifier races that were just practically a straight line.
Yeah.
You just do the dungeons in the right order. And that's another good reason that skull in the corner there. Only there's a child.
So yeah, no new hints there. We got 2 that we'd already seen. Forest Floor Master having the boss key and King Zora being worthless. Carriers are coming off to this side room for an extra skull.
I get the feeling we'll see a lot of locations you don't see in every seed, just for that very reason.
Skull routing is always an interesting dynamic. I love it. I love seeing how it plays out, but...
And nothing in Child Goron City did not pay off for Phoenix there.
Right.
So we're left with 2 checks, I think, in Goron City then.
Yeah, just the 2. One of them is available as adult, and the other one is not yet available. Either the hammer or 2 strength upgrades away.
Kariossa avoiding taking that extra bit of damage. Trying not to die again.
Yeah, I like. It's kind of always been a running joke of Dodongo's Cavern being the easiest dungeon. Someone is going to die on King Dodongo at some point.
Oh,
Okay.
that's a lot of Skulltulas right there.
Also, yeah, someone is going to die on King Dodongo at some point, and they're never gonna live.
They'll
that
never
down.
they'll never live it down.
The person who dies to King Dodongo on restream, that's it. They're never forgetting it. Also, yeah, I love that both of us just reacted to the boomerang with just ooh and nothing else.
That's I mean, the boomerang is often an item that can be very elusive
Yeah.
in seeds.
Yeah. I feel like if you're hunting for that one last item, it's usually one of boomerang, Bruto's letter, long shot, or like hover boots. You never get anything other than like water, shadow, or jabber as your final dungeon.
And that tends to be because those items don't lock very much. Although, special consideration also for the mirror shield. In that same vein. I couldn't tell. Was that a scale lock there? Or was it just a...
I didn't think so. I thought it was just a rupee, but... Uh-oh. Phoenix's time of day here is... This isn't gonna work out.
No! Oh!
Oh. So I'm surprised Phoenix didn't just go straight to Nocturne with that to do Dampe digging.
True, that would be a good use of time there. And also, opportunity to get 5 Skulltulas and, well...
Right, and clear out bottom of the well while you're at it.
Instead, you want to go for this setup. This is pretty tricky, but Phoenix makes it look very easy.
Yeah, okay. So I guess, yeah, Phoenix is probably going towards Gerudo Valley here as just the kind of the backup. If things have gone wrong, that's where you tend to go to.
Yeah, kind of burn some clock here.
Kariossa, yes, Kariossa is going to grab the fairy off. No, it's gone into a wall. Never mind.
The fairy doesn't want to be grabbed.
There's a heart in one of these pots, but he might have already grabbed it. Yeah, I think he did. So this could be close. Kariossa might die to Keese.
So I don't know exactly how it works, but Kariossa just did what's called a ground jump, which you are a specific distance away from a bomb, and you shield the explosion and also press the button to grab it, and this sort of stores a jump for Link. And so when you attempt to do a backflip of some kind, or like go airborne, you just go straight up instead of doing the backflip that you're doing the input for. So it allows you to grab ledges that you normally couldn't. It's a useful trick. One of the few glitches allowed in the rule set.
There's some really unique applications for that as well. But the most, I think, kind of the rarest one, but also one of the most infamous ones, is the old killing King Dodongo with just bomb chews, where you set up a ground jump using the bomb flower in the corner as King Dodongo rolls past, and then you use the ground jump to get the height to put a bomb chew directly into his mouth.
There's rarely ever cause to do that.
It's it's rare that you see it, but it's also kind of one of those ones that people always talk about, and then it like never comes up.
I think I've actually seen it like once, and it was Engineer 124, another one of the runners in this tourney, who pulled it off.
I think I've seen it once, and it was a couple of weeks ago for the first time.
One of those kind of more trouble than it's worth strategies. Ooh, and
so that's kind of, that check has some history in tournament races. The now infamous Duke Wall, because of a race in Season 2 where Duke versus Banuru, and both of them cleared the entire world. Duke forfeited, not knowing what was missing. Banuru finally realized that the one thing that hadn't been done was that wall. And somehow they just both missed it, and it was the long shot. So yeah, strength over in the Duke Wall.
oof. Kariossa missing on that backflip to get that skull.
It's a rough place to fall as well, because that means you're not stopping the Goron.
Right.
Not easily, at least.
The quickest strategy to stop the Goron rolling around on the loop Goron City is to shoot the bomb flower as he's going past. The explosion will stop him. But timing is everything with that. And falling down and missing you miss the cycle. You don't stop Link the Goron when you want to.
It's actually already quite difficult to hit that cycle if you pick up the skull with a backflip already, let alone, you know, obviously if you fall, you definitely miss it, but
Right.
the timing is really tight on that anyway. Most people, I think, tend to just turn around and shoot after killing the skull and then pick it up, unless they have the hook shot, in which case you can just kind of shoot the front of the pedestal a couple of times and the skull will just get pulled through it.
The timing actually worked out for Kariossa pretty well. Wasn't waiting terribly long to shoot that bomb flower.
And it's strength.
There it is. Strength 2. Which unlocks the other check in Goron City.
I was going to say it unlocks the spirit way of the hero as well, but
Yeah.
not quite. We still don't have a way to get to the desert. Kariossa trying to roll through this maze with strength 2, which always leads to accidentally throwing a couple of rocks around.
Just eating all over the place.
Nothing in that one. Just that strength 2 then.
At least that one's good. At least you know like what you were aiming for there, aiming to find at the very least.
I assume that just means that strength 3 is strength 2 locked in some way, whether that's whether that's directly strength 2 locked, whether that's it's in Ganon's castle, or it's locked behind whatever item is Way of the Hero and Spirit. It could be strength 3, but right now I think odds are actually pretty high that it's not.
One of the things to remember is, we always talk about seeds that require all dungeons. You have to complete the stone dungeons to get the song on Ocarina of Time. But it's also important to think about, when does the seed expect you to do all dungeons? Like, when are you supposed to, let's say, get Epona's song to access whatever it is you're supposed to access to continue beating your medallion dungeon?
Right.
How early or late is it?
Yeah, especially relevant when it's like, if it's something like Epona's song to get to Gerudo Training Grounds, and a lot of the runners in this tournament, Kariossa getting hit with a club there. A lot of the runners in this tournament, in fact, I think every runner in this bracket will know how to get to Gerudo Training Grounds from the desert without, which is not in the logic. So the game will be there going, you need your horse to get across here, and none of them will. At what point do you go, okay, I need to do the dungeon anyway and get the song anyway? And at what point do you go, this is bait and I'm not going to take it?
And it does come down to, I lost my train of thought and I don't remember what I was going to say. But
I mean, part of it is runner preference, how much you want to skip the stone dungeons. Part of it is how good is the dungeon anyway, Spirit has more checks than any other dungeon in the game. It doesn't matter that it's a stone dungeon, it doesn't matter that it's logical or hardwired, all dungeons, whatever. It's Spirit. Spirit is a good place to go to. We'll ignore the Way of the Hero for this, but
that was what I was gonna say. Is like, what is the stone dungeon that you need to complete? Like, is it Spirit? Well, how good or bad, quote unquote, is Spirit? Spirit's one of those ones that kind of iffy.
I think Spirit's great. I think it's the best.
It's a great and fun dungeon, but it's also kind of scary to think about because you don't know exactly what you can access.
Right, the logic definitely gets difficult. More than anything, like I say, it has more checks than any other dungeon in the game, but that's kind of deceptive in and of itself because 2 of the chests are child only. And so it kind of acts like 2 separate dungeons in that sense.
And it's how those 2 separate dungeons are kind of meshed together and what rooms you can access as both adult and child, or just as adult or just as child, and what you need to make those connections. Here it's a tangled web of nonsense. Nothing on the castle ferry or
Mentioned in
Kariossa there.
Chat there though, by the way, Kariossa had an incredible time of day management there. Got into that grave just as it was turning to night to play Nocturne to go and check Dampe digging, get the song here, and then go into bottom of the well. Like, this is absolutely perfectly gonna flow one thing into the next. And I think that's one of the biggest tests of a runner is how do they manage their time of day, because it's one of the kind of more difficult skills to pick up, I think. Because you've got to know exactly how much time will pass for each area you travel through, and being able to judge what time of day you're at just by looking.
And it's also knowing, what can you do when.
Right,
Like,
yeah.
The Dombe Gravedigging game is a very precise window.
I think I remember hearing something like, if you're in Hyrule Field and it turns to night, you've got, I think it's 7 or 8 seconds to get to Kakariko, if you want to get there in time.
It's not a lot of time. 21 seconds.
21? Okay, a lot more than I thought.
That's still not a lot
Still
of
not
time.
much. No, still not much.
The ideal is in this type of situation where our runners are in, where you have Nocturne of Shadow and you can just warp to the graveyard without having to, work like where you are in time and space. Oh, and gonna see a nice boomerang trick here from Kariossa. Very nicely done.
Perfect. Magic, yeah, not the most useful on its own, but definitely required eventually.
Yeah, Kariossa left a skull behind in the graveyard.
I mean, I guess that's fine. You can easily, if you know you're going to get to... Oh, PhoenixFeather just picked up the last Way of the Hero hint. That was Shadow Temple Way of the Hero.
Interesting.
So we have all 5 of our Way of the Hero locations. So we know that Sacred Forest Meadow is required. That had Zelda's Lullaby. We know Lon Lon Ranch was required. That had Nocturne of Shadow. Both of those we know are going to be necessary. Goron City had a strength upgrade. The second one for both runners. And then we haven't seen Spirit or Shadow yet, but both of those are also Way of the Hero. Also, yeah, for the record, the hints that we're still missing are 1 barren location, or foolish location, whatever people want to call them at this point, 50 skulls, Skull Mask, and 1 of the other locations.
So we have most of our hints. Depending on what PhoenixFeather does and what the hints are in this area, we may find 1 or 2 of the remaining.
That's just a huge rupee through there. Oh, get to see a 10 skull check. And it's nothing.
Phoenix not using a skull tracker on his personal tracker. Just kind of going through. Kariossa's is marked at 13.
I think 30 is generally not a bad one to get to.
No, in terms of skull collecting, it's not seed breaking, I think.
So there's back-to-back adult shooting hints. Nice. just what you're after.
And I think both of our runners have already done that check, so it's not particularly useful either.
Yeah, as far as skull tracking goes, I think I tend to see people kind of marking every kind of like 3 to 5, but not keeping it up perfectly. So, it's kind of got each extreme here. One that's tracking it almost to the point, like to the exact number, and one. Oh!
Oh!
Oh, wow. Okay, so 50 skulls is required.
Well, that changes 30 from 30 skulls, which we just said is a leisurely walk to.
Yeah. No, 50 you and Shadow's Way of the Hero. So you need 50 skulls to get the hover boots. Oh!
Oh, and
no.
a hammer.
Hammer in bottom of the well. This seed just suddenly opened up. Everything has just exploded everywhere. This has gone. So we're an hour in. For anyone who's just joining, we're like an hour into the bracket race for the season 3 tournament. PhoenixFeather vs Kariossa, they have taken wildly different routes, and we've just found out that both 30 and 50 skulls are required. 30 is the hookshot, 50 is the hover boots. We don't think it's all dungeons yet, but it could be logically. It's Epona's song there. And yeah, there is. And Stone Spirit is Way of the Hero as the last stone dungeon. Let's see, turned into something.
It's gonna be fun to watch.
Oh yeah. Everyone, buckle in. You're here for a while, I think.
And if I had to pick, I still think Phoenix has the edge here. I think his routing, at least for again for efficiency's sake, has gone better. He's been better about skulls.
Phoenix is the one who saw the hover boot hit, wasn't he? So yeah.
Yeah.
I think that will make the biggest difference. The fact that he actually knows to push towards 50, where Kariossa knows 30, but not much more.
Happy 1 hour mark, everybody.
Maybe not for the runners.
That's why we're here in our comfort of the commentary booth.
Phoenix a little off on the position there. This is quite a precise one. You have to be slightly left of that fence and then... Nice. Perfect.
Well done.
The only thing I ever remember about the positioning for that is that it's far lower than you think it is. Like, if you just know what you have to do, and you just try and aim based on, I have to throw the boomerang so it loops around and hits the item, you will always just instinctively aim too high. Like, aim where you think you should, and then just lower it a bunch. Oh, and that was Phoenix at 14, and Kariossa has all 3 keys. Wouldn't be surprised to see him stop in and grab like a couple of the skulls in bottom of the well. It's not looking like it though. I feel like you would have gone into that side room then if that was the plan.
I think it seems like Kariossa is kind of making a play to put off like doing skulls until the absolute like I have no other progression. Now is the time for me to do skulls.
Yeah, the problem is that Kariossa doesn't know about the 50 skull hint yet, so we're gonna get to the point where Kariossa finally goes, okay, I guess I'll get the skulls to get the hook shot, and then suddenly, you know, has to go out of the way to get those skulls and finds a 50 hint along the way, or finds the 50 hint and suddenly starts to regret skipping over all of those skulls earlier.
Right. because that's a lot of backtracking. That's a lot of having to go to obscure places because you don't want to backtrack. It's a recipe for a bad time. The knowledge is heavily in PhoenixFeather's favor here.
Definitely, for sure.
40 skulls is the prescription, but Bigoron is not required in this seed.
Yeah, the only hint we're missing at this point is one of the Baron locations. Also, to answer a question in chat, Ferora's Wind for 1 skull is in water, and it's if it logically locks the long shot only. Very rare quirk in the logic that, yeah, can't happen once we've got bombs and a boomerang. And a bottle, I think. I think it can happen with bombs and boomerangs. Trying to land precise skull counts is so precise. Like, I made a seed. I made the Plando seed at one point. For anyone who doesn't know, Plando is basically, it's a randomizer, except you plan out where the items go. And then subject people to whatever terrible decisions you've made. And
spoiler, I wasn't a fan of this Plando.
No, but I did skull counts in that, and it is so difficult making exact skull counts. It is so precise.
And the other thing is, in a Plando you can manage it a bit better, but in just a any given seed where your 50 skulls might be required, and then that 1 skull requires you to have furores, more likely than not there's a skull you can access out of logic that you can not have to do that.
Right, I remember a discussion a while back about trying to hit exact skull counts without having any that you could sequence break, that you could, ignore the logic on. And so the first thing that came up was, well, there's the one in Late Hylia that we saw PhoenixFeather get earlier, where you jump slash against the lab wall. So you have to give them a boomerang. And there's the one in Kakariko on the tower, like the guard tower, that you can climb up and then drop and jump slash. So you have to give them a slingshot for the logic. And at that point, I think it ends up escalating to the point that you basically have to give them 50 skulls anyway. There's no way to do it where those things are not... You can't sequence break it. Alright, there's Phoenix getting that hammer. Oh, Kariossa is actually pushing the skulls quite hard right now, though. Gone to Lon Lon Ranch for skulls, which is a really good location for them. And it's at 19.
Probably has come to the point where I have no real progression. I need to push skulls, and that's pretty much true at this point. As far as locations go for him, I don't think there's anything he's left unturned.
Right, yeah. I was gonna say, yeah, you got the hammer and can go to fire, but no way to go to fire yet. No bolero, no hovers, no hookshot. I wonder where hookshot and hovers could be. 30 and 50 skulls. Oh. To be fair, I think one of the things that's worth noting is that a lot of runners... I feel like a lot of people talk about how much they don't like skulls, but actually, most of the kind of top runners seem like they really enjoy rooting in the Skull Seeds because it kind of it mixes things up a bit, it differentiates it, and it like really kind of emphasizes that rooting.
Yeah, skull seeds are very different from seeds that are not skull seeds in terms of you need to plan around also getting Skulltulas, but that rooting becomes very interesting. And one of the qualifiers was pretty key for that, where needing skulls for me for example pushed me to bottom of the well, which had my go mode items. So then
Because that was like the one qualifier we both did quite well on, so
yes,
in that group. Also, because it came up in chat, I'm going to go over the hints as well while I'm at it. So, Way of the Hero means that the game says, okay, logically you need to do these things in this order to beat the game. And then if something is 100% required, there is no way you can skip it and still beat the game in terms of logic. It becomes Way of the Hero. So we have Sacred Forest Meadow, which had Zelda's Lullaby. We had London Ranch, which had the Nocturne of Shadow. And Goron City, which had a Strength upgrade. And then we have the Spirit Temple and the Shadow Temple. We don't know what's in those yet. Barren or Foolish hints means there is nothing relevant to your playthrough there. You can skip everything there and lose nothing. And we have Kokiri Forest and the Market. And then we've got 30 skulls unlocks a hookshot, 40 skulls unlocks a prescription to do the big Goron quest, which is nothing. And 50 skulls is the hover boots. We still don't know what's on Skull Mask. Nothing on frogs, or the frog Ocarina song. The Ocarina of Time song for doing the 3 stone dungeons is Epona's song. And then nothing on King Zora, nothing on the Goron City Spinning Pot, nothing on the Adult Shooting Gallery, Sun Song in the Desert Colossus, and a boss key on the Forest Temple Master. And they're both kind of pushing those skulls. So, PhoenixFeather has fewer skulls at the moment, but knows that more are needed. I actually wonder how long it is until Kariossa goes up towards Death Mountain Trail and finds out that that's going to be required.
I would guess that Kariossa does probably complete Forest before going to Death Mountain Trail, because you complete Forest, then you walk over to you take the Lost Woods path to Goron City, and then you go into the crater, and maybe even does fire.
I think you're right, yeah. I think Kariossa goes up to the crater to do fire, and then goes around and does the crater checks afterwards and gets that hint at the end of it all.
And that's where that lost opportunity comes in, because one, that's a long time for a runner at Kariossa's skill level. It's say 15 to 20 minutes to complete Forest, and that's also a favorite spot for routing Skulltulas.
Right, like if Kariossa doesn't have a 50 skull hint, do you still pick up the ones in Forest? I guess you pick up the two. So there's the one right at the start, and there's one in the main kind of lobby room. You definitely get those two. I think you get the one by the outside chest as well. But the others, I guess you probably get the one in the basement. I think maybe it's just the one that you skip. The one in the courtyard near the Floor Master.
The thing is, if it's a 1v1, it's a bracket match, it's a gamble. do you bet against needing that 50 skulls to save the time?
I think, I don't know, like, usually yes, but I mean, if you're going to be running past them anyway, I think you grab them anyway. You're right there. It's 2 seconds to get it. I think more so than Forest, I think the one that will hurt is going to be Fire. You don't pick up any of them in Fire Temple.
Right, like they're all fairly out of the way, or at least it's a pain to get to them. And that lost opportunity is pretty large. It also depends on how deep you go into fire, because general preference is you don't go deeper in fire than you absolutely have to. Some runners would disagree with that, but generally
that sounds right. But yeah, for Kariossa's, if you're rooting for Kariossa here, if you're cheering on Kariossa at this point, you want him to go adult and go straight to the crater. Go straight there before getting a hook shot, before any of that. Up to the crater first. Do that loop and plan to pick up the last couple of skulls on that route. Because if Kariossa's plan is to get the last, like, say, 2 skulls in that area, and goes up there at 28, then he'll find the 50 hint on the way down and go, okay, pick up the hook shot, keep going, keep collecting them. If he gets to 30 before going adult, then yeah, he's it's gonna be a little bit lost after that.
we are kind of reaching a convergence point here, where our runners are basically on the same track, and forest is generally the default for the dungeon you want to do first once you get a hook shot, just because it has the lowest requirements to complete.
Yeah, forest is always nice to get out of the way early. But especially, we know that they got the song to get there super early as well. They got Saria's from Saria, maybe. No, from Kak, from Windmill.
Oh, Phoenix skipped these earlier. I didn't even notice.
Is Phoenix? Are we gonna see the back Deku Tree skull?
I'm really hoping to see the back of Deku's skull.
Never see it, but I think we're gonna get it in this. Oh, did get that one earlier. I'm guessing that breaks a ground jump. Yeah.
I'm pretty sure it does.
Would have been able to pull out the bomb otherwise. So. Don't even see this room in like token sanity, let alone just weekly settings.
Yeah, this is a check that's usually a gamble in token sanity, and it's a skull that's generally not worth it. I think it is worth it in this case.
What?
Unless
what?
come all this way. We are denied. But these are faster.
I don't understand.
I think if you go all that way, you might as well just get the skull.
You do it while you're there.
Especially if you know you need to get 50. I'm confused about that one.
Unless there's a very specific plan in mind to get exactly 50 from here. Like, you know, I can do this and that'll get me to 30 and then this will get me to however many and like jump from dungeon to dungeon and get all of them. That is an interesting choice.
That's a very odd heel turn.
Are we talking heel turn as like spinning on your heels, or heel turn as
just
in like the wrestling turn, like becoming the villain by disappointing everyone in chat?
Both. Absolutely both. That's a meme denied.
That is 30 skulls.
That is 30 skulls. And PhoenixFeather being very careful there not to accidentally dupe that skull.
Yeah.
Stopping at the last second before going into the warp.
Yeah, that was for anyone who missed that. PhoenixFeather went to the skull at the back of the Deku Tree, which is quite out the way to begin with. Went into the basement, ground jumped up to get there, crawled through the crawl space, lit a stick, burned the web, and then walked away. Didn't go in, didn't blow up the wall and walk in. Skull right in that doorway, just left, just gone. But Phoenix does pick up the hook shot, and is going straight to adult. So I think Kariossa's pretty much right behind. So Kariossa, the problem is Kariossa's gonna go and get this one at Ganon's castle, and then not see that 50 hint.
The 50 hint is Death Mountain Trail below Big Goron.
By the way, that skull there that Kariossa just got is in logic with 0 items.
Yes, the logic does not expect you to have a hook shot to get that.
I not having a hook shot seems fine to me. I don't understand how you're meant to get it without a bow, without like anything. But alright, so Kariossa's gonna go pick up the hook shot and be right on Phoenix's tail. And this is again what we were saying earlier. Dungeons are so good for skulls. So strong in terms of skull looting.
And Forest is a great example of that. It's very dense for skulls early on. You have that one in the first room.
Mm-hmm.
You have one right up ahead that Phoenix is about to get here. And 2 in the courtyard as well.
Right, which it's worth noting, you know, Phoenix has seen a hint, is going to grab all the skulls. Fine. The thing to watch here is how much is Kariossa going to do. And Kariossa skipped this one. If you skip the first one, if you skip that, you're skipping all of them.
Yeah. And that's... And I feel like that's the smart play. If you don't know that 50 is required, you don't play to that, especially not in a 1v1 scenario like this.
Right. Yeah, I agree. Just we know it's going to backfire.
And I do feel like that is kind of the killer here. Although I don't want to call it just yet, because these are both two very skilled runners. Anything can happen.
There's still a lot that could change, but it gives Phoenix a notable lead.
Yeah, there's a lot of seed ahead of us. Both of our runners only have one medallion, and
I think the decision after this will also play a big factor, because coming back through forest for the skulls is also fairly fast. So if after all of this, Kariossa goes straight out and finds a 50 hint, at some point can just play minuet, come in, grab one in the lobby, one in the entrance, one in the main room, two in the courtyard, and then elevator into the basement. That's all 5. Like, they're right at the start. But if Kariossa goes into Fire Temple before going around Death Mountain Trail and getting the hint below Big Goron, then that's 2 dungeons worth being left behind. And that's a big deal.
yeah, like we were saying earlier, Fire Temple's not that easy to just go back into and get those Skulltulas.
Right, especially if you already have, like, if the boss key is on Pierre or something, you've already gone up that far.
That's very painful just to think about going back into fire to do pretty much nothing.
Yeah.
That is also true. You could have a very early boss key in fire and it does not matter.
Yeah,
But that could also mean that you're expected to have 50 before you do fire or complete fire in any case.
Mm-hmm. Right. Actually, that's always an interesting point, is whether the hover boots are actually logically required for fire. Neither of these runners will need the hover boots, but there's a way that the logic can expect you to have them, and if that's the case, there's probably nothing in fire.
Right.
Although, yeah, 50 is in logic with bombs, boomerang, bottle. It's
Shot.
definitely hook shot, yeah. In fact, the biggest kind of, in terms of the logic, the biggest hindrance to what puts skulls into logic or not is how many dungeons can you access. A few of us were talking the other day and discussing overworld versus dungeon skulls, and it's something like there are 56 overworld skulls to 44 dungeon skulls. So it's pretty evenly split, which sounds like it doesn't make much of a difference then, except you realize that firstly, like 9 of those overworld skulls are the dirt patches. And then, like, there are so many different areas that those overworld skulls are split between, as opposed to just 9 dungeons? 10 dungeons.
Which GTG doesn't have any. So.
Right.
I believe doing that recoil trick that we saw Kariossa do is technically faster, only slightly. The key for Phoenix doing it is he wants Skulltula right here.
Right. I think it's that it's faster. I think it's also slower if you have Ferora's Wind.
Because if you have Ferora's, you can keep that room rotated.
Right, walk from here to the entrance near the ice switch and not have to run up through the block room again.
Phoenix had a hard time with that big Baba there. Kind of got bopped a few times by it.
So they are right on each other's heels right now. We could see anything show up here, and they're both gonna be figuring out piece by piece at the same time. So much of this is gonna come back to when does Kariossa see a 50 hint? Where is the other 50 hint?
Right. Because it could be locked in the Hammerlock Grotto that nobody checks, or the Castle Storms Grotto that nobody checks.
Right. Or on the flip side, it could be in the desert, and they're gonna go there as soon as they can to go to Spirit anyway. For all we know, it could be, long shot here, and then they go to the desert and find the other hint.
Back of Hylia was checked. I'm pretty sure both of those were the Sun Song at Colossus hint.
They were, yeah. So, the winner of this match is going to go on to face the winner of GS Kirox versus Garroni, which is... that's a hell of a match as well. Which I think is going to be quite an interesting one in terms of playstyles, but if you're in their shoes watching this match right now, I almost think there's almost nothing you can learn from this right at this point.
Yeah, and it's really just one. I hate to even call it a routing mistake.
It's a decision, but yeah, I don't think it's necessarily a mistake so much as something that just hasn't worked.
And I agree with that decision. At least, from a blind perspective, that
Yeah.
you don't push for 50, even if you have 30, just because you don't know.
Right, I agree with that, yeah. But no, I think it's interesting as well with a 1v1. There is a lot of playing your opponents and trying to kind of see what your opponents will do and look at their past race and stuff. And I don't think this race has said much about either runner, really. Firstly, they're doing very similar routes, and secondly, they're kind of... I guess the most I could say is that they're both doing fairly standard routes.
Sure.
But at the same time, they're taking just the occasional risks. Neither of them have done Gerudo Valley.
Right, and I think that one of the big things is the seed to this point. Everything was bottlenecked behind 30 after, they did everything they could, and then they said, now I need to get 30 skulls and go do my medallion dungeons. That was pretty much forced to this point. I will say, PhoenixFeather started out, it seemed like he was a little behind in Forest at first, and part of that was him routing in the skulls, but he's pulled a room or two ahead in that time frame. Seems a little more consistent that would be, if you were an opponent, something you'd be more worried about, something you'd have to consider in your any metagaming you might do.
Right. We also we touched upon this earlier with the runners kind of giving a bit of background information on themselves. They both started playing Rando this year, but Kariossa was very much a spectator before this, watched a lot of Necro and Marco, and then got into Rando himself, whereas Phoenix used to speedrun Ocarina of Time. So Phoenix has that execution experience over Kariossa.
More than that, even Phoenix has a bingo background in Ocarina of Time.
Right. So
It makes a world of difference in the routing and doing weird things and different things and having to break logic, quote unquote.
Also, for anyone who missed that in chat, by the way, I'm going to just quickly mention that if you are enjoying what you're seeing here, you can subscribe to Zelda Speedruns, and there's a bunch of incentives if we get a certain number of subs. And the next one, we've had one race before between ATZ and Trezco. ATZ Season 1 tournament winner, kind of, a pretty renowned racer in the community at this point. Trez, the owner of ZSR, and not a great OOT player. So ATZ wore the iron boots for the entire race and comfortably won. It was not especially close. Trez, I think, has improved since then. Done a few more kind of incentive seeds, a few more playthroughs due to these goals. And they're talking about doing a rematch at AGDQ if we can reach 300 subs, basically before AGDQ. So if you want to see an in-person live ATZ versus Trez, but ATZ has to wear iron boots for the whole race, you know what to do. Get those subs in and we can make that one happen. Prime opportunity to sell that one as well, because that purple Poe is...
Egg.
They tried to cut it down. They really tried. And it broke all the others. I think the rules for anyone who didn't see the other ATZ and Iron Boots race, I think the rule was whenever adult has to wear Iron Boots unless whatever he's doing is impossible in Iron Boots, in which case he has to wear hovers instead. And the seeds were generated. There were so many seeds rolled to find one where both irons and hovers were in Mido's house, so that was possible from the get-go. Alrighty. So I think that's Kariossa at 1 hit and Phoenix at 2. This is close right now.
And again, down for Phoenix.
Alright, so... Was that
Iron
Boots? Ooh.
So,
And
good.
Kariossa there was about 19 seconds behind.
So, yeah, that's going to push Phoenix to water, and I wouldn't be surprised if Kariossa follows suit just because of
I don't
logic.
think this is. I think this is Phoenix picking up the Scarecrow to do fire. Because we know that they still don't have a long shot. So water isn't beatable yet.
Sure.
But they can full clear fire, and Phoenix knows the skulls are required, and there's 2 skulls up in that area as well.
So they can finish fire. That they can't finish water because they need the long shot to reach the boss.
Mm-hmm. Phoenix took a few tries on child fishing earlier. Bit better with the adult. Kariossa, on the other hand, never went back to child fishing, right?
No, he
Didn't have
did.
Money. Oh, did go back for it in the end? Okay.
Did go back. Wasn't anything of note. So
Didn't have the money on the first visit, but yeah. Still not anything of note.
nice meme. Just step away quickly. I'll be right back.
Alright. So yeah, I assume we'll just see the runners kind of clean up a couple of checks here, both in and out of logic. In Phoenix's case right now, this is not available until 2 scales, but you might as well check it while you're here. Oh, and this was Skull, right. This is another one that Kariossa is probably going to miss. The way the hero hints were Goron City, London Ranch, Sacred Forest Meadow, Spirit and Shadow, and we only actually have 2 foolish locations right now, which are Kokiri Forest and the Market. That is the only hint. Oh no, we're still missing the Skull Mask hint as well. We're still missing Skull Mask and one of the foolish locations. I have to teach myself to say foolish and not barren. I'm still caught up on that one. And Gwei gone, and that is just a bundle of arrows. Okay, so Phoenix is going to go straight into fire. Like, no hesitation here. The question is, what does Kariossa do? If you're wanting Kariossa to win this race, if you're rooting for Kariossa right now, you want to see Death Mountain Trail before fire. Also, yeah, for the record, Foolish and Barren are identical. The only difference is one of them is the old terminology and one of them is the current one. So it's a case of trying to use the current terminology to make it that little bit less confusing.
Alright, I'm back. Is anything of import?
Kariossa is falling slightly further behind. Phoenix is picking up more skulls.
That's kind of the issue here, is that information, it's a ticking clock now. It's how big that advantage gets for Kariossa, or for Phoenix rather.
Right, like the best comparison I can think of is for anyone who's watched the multi-world matches. There's like always this idea that when the first player finishes, you're bleeding time at that point. Every second you're still running whilst somebody else is finished is time that your team is losing. That's what it feels like for Kariossa right now. Until Kariossa finds a 50 skull hit, this is just bleeding time right now, because afterwards Kariossa is going to have to go around and pick up all of these skulls that Phoenix is getting on the direct path.
And for us, we've already explained, like, you can kind of make that up pretty quickly.
Yeah. Fire less so, and that is going to be the difference maker here, is where does Kariossa go?
Fire less so, and also some of the overworld skulls are very not as convenient around unless you're like going for them.
Right, yeah, like Phoenix just went into Kokiri Forest and started picking them up there, and those are not that easy to get back to. Phoenix giving us a small sample of the, Iron Boots race.
Oh, I'm here.
And Kariossa is going to keep going. That might just about be the race.
It's still anything is possible. I've seen crazy things in these races before. It's not over till it's over.
Right. We've had last location, like someone's cleared everything while the other person just happens to pick the right check from the get-go, and that's it. Suddenly the whole race turns around, but Kariossa is a good 10 skulls behind right now.
Should be 10 exactly with this one, in fact.
I think so, yeah.
I don't think all dungeons would be a big problem point. I think if, say, Rudo's is in a difficult location to find, then that could be more of a problem point.
Yeah, if we get to the point where they finish, they get 50 skulls, they finish Shadow, find, I don't know, Mirror Shield or something there, and it just kind of snowballs, and then it turns out the long shot is in the water temple, or something like that. Like, a vanilla long shot is difficult to find. That is something that is difficult to get to. But, yeah. Outside of something like that, it definitely feels like it's Phoenix's race to lose at this point.
Right.
And actually, it's worth noting that, as far as we can tell, they're missing Din's Fire, they're missing Ruto's Letter, and they're missing a long shot and the light arrows. So 4 items and 2 hints. Now, obviously, there could be some kind of chain of logic in that. It could be, gold gauntlets that lead to another, that lead to one of those items. It could be I mean, actually, can it be anything else? I guess a slingshot, logically, but that's very unlikely.
Right.
And even if that were the case, that still gives you a lot of direction because Deku is not a medallion. So anything that you find now tells you where to go. It's either a required item or it tells you where you're going for a required item. So there's not much room for Kariossa to catch up at this point.
On the flip side, if one of those Way of the Heroes outstanding is the light arrows, then that's basically one less hint, because the light arrows don't unlock anything.
Right.
You just need them to complete the seed.
Mm-hmm. And I guess the other thing that could always happen that I know trips people up quite a lot is 2 items in the same Way of the Hero location. So Phoenix could go into Spirit, find Ruto's letter, and be like, great, this is what I was here for. I'm going to leave and go and do Jabu and then do Ice Cavern, and Kariossa can go in wanting the skulls, potentially, depending on when it comes up, and go and get Ruto's letter, and then go a bit further and get Din's Fire. And that would swing everything.
And we are seeing one of those. This is pretty key. Phoenix is going for the boss. Kariossa is continuing. And I like Kariossa's play here. Because we don't know if hover boots are required logically to get to Volvagia here. So, and that the potential of an item being higher up in fire is fairly likely, especially with the number of keys that were early on.
I think this is risky. I think this is very much a gamble what Kariossa is doing right now, because he doesn't know it's 150. He's just checking, is fire hover locked or not, because it tells you where to look for the hover. Phoenix, on the other hand, knows they're in logic and is like, well, whatever, I can get this either way. The issue being, you're using exact key counts almost through fire most of the time, and there's a pretty high chance you're going to get locked out. It's looking like it's not going to happen to Kariossa. Wow, that was a good Volvagia fight.
So clean. Love it.
But yeah, the other concern here is Kariossa are just taking the risk to go further into fire. Like, I'm going to assume that this going to find fire arrows. If Din's is fire locked, that could actually be big. It's unlikely, but it's possible. But yeah, the other issue here is that Kariossa is going all the way through fire, which, again, we were saying earlier, you know, this could be the kind of play that pays off big, but he's also skipping all of the skulls on the way through fire.
Right, and this also increases the amount of time it's going to take Kariossa to find that hint.
Right.
Just as like a blanket thing. Like, the further Kariossa goes in, the more time he's in fire, the less time he's going to be spending, you know, reading hints.
So this is interesting from Phoenix. I wonder if this is just go in until the boss key, or if this is clear the dungeon. Because I think going into water when you know you have to do it eventually, until you get a boss key, is fairly reasonable. Any more than that, and water tends to be a very, very weak location.
Well, again, consider, you know, what's left in logic. You're getting to that point where you're running out of checks.
I'm gonna call it now. Neither of them checked Child Gerudo Valley.
This is true. You also got to consider there's 2 songs locked behind water here.
Right.
One on the Prelude of Light check, one on the Nocturne of Shadow check.
Right, and there are 3
One of
songs.
those
Yeah.
is probably Requiem of Spirit.
Yeah. Right, we've got 3 songs missing. 2 of them are fairly useless at this point, but the other one is that Requiem. So good. Seeing that kind of setup and like stuff like that, like the little sequence breaks and kind of trick jumps and whatever. That's the part of the execution that I just like can never wrap my head around, and I love seeing it.
Yeah, you would really get an appreciation for the skill that goes into all those tricks.
Mm-hmm. Oh,
Kariossa going for Pierre.
Phoenix just... Did Kariossa not even grab the skull on the way up to Pierre, like on the way past? Yikes.
Deep fire looking like a good bit of bait at this point.
Yeah.
Oh, Pierre is the name of the scarecrow. The scarecrow does in fact have a name. That's not a meme. That is in game. That's his name.
Yeah, that's also like now in the community we tend to, talk about Banuru, the racer. But that's the name of the other scarecrow. That's where that comes from, so one of the scarecrows is Pierre and the other one is Banuru. Yeah.
Teach the song to, and he tells Pierre to show up.
Oh!
Oh!
Oh, wow! Okay. We have a race.
We have a race.
No, Kariossa needs to go around Death Mountain Crater at this point. You see Kariossa beat Volvagia and then go to Death Mountain Trail and Crater and stuff. The problem is, why would you go down the trail? Would you just go there just for the hint?
Now, I feel like you save warp. Right?
Probably. Kariossa hasn't done the Death Mountain Crater checks, right? I don't think we've seen either the Hammer Fairy or the Grotto from Kariossa.
No. So you might do it for that and then do the fairy up top.
Right, Summit Fairy, and then it's just a question of, do you drop down for that hint? Zero bombs for Volvagia. Okay, it has some bomb shoes at least.
See a different quick kill for Volvagia.
Oh, that is huge though.
For anyone unfamiliar, there are actually 2 Volvagia models, and the hitbox for the one that flies and the one that is exposed in that hole in the ground, while Volvagia is popping out of the ground.
That's not going to work out for Kariossa, though. So the idea is that you use the bombs to hit the underground one, while leaving the above ground one just kind of sat there. But one of those explosions hit the exposed head, and that means that she'll start flying around. Also, yeah, so there was one key on Volvagia, and there were no... Kariossa was at 0 keys before doing this. So logically, that key was needed. Which means the hovers... Kariossa does know that the hovers are available before fire. But Bruto's letter was available without the hovers.
Phoenix having to do this from vanilla.
Oh, like full vanilla. Dang. I was gonna say, normally you see this with worst case scenario, the long shot, and you're like, alright, go to the first statue, and then go straight to the last one. Done. Like, even that's kind of a bad scenario, but... Alright, Kariossa is still going.
Happy 2-hour mark, by the way.
For anyone who's joined within the last hour, we have a hell of a race on our hands. Hover Boots on 50 skulls, Ruto's letter in deep fire. Kariossa has the letter but hasn't seen the 50 skull hint. PhoenixFeather has the 50 skull hint but failed on fire.
Boss key on Dark Link Water Temple. Kariossa is continuing. Oh.
There we are. There's the hint. That was a moment of hesitation of, wait, what do I do now?
Uh-oh.
So yeah, Kariossa probably feels behind on that information, but probably also knows that there's a good chance Phoenix skipped the letter, which he did. And straight into Dodongo's cavern for more skulls.
Scale.
For Phoenix. Okay. No, and that's a whole lot of nothing in the water temple. So, I'm gonna guess here Phoenix isn't going back to fire yet. Oh, that was just a safe quit. Wow, okay. I guess I was going to say, have we seen Zora River yet?
No. No, we have not.
Because I was assuming that was where Phoenix was going, but I mean, if you're going to do that, it makes more sense to go there as Child. We do have Song of Storms, can pick up those frogs along the way.
I would imagine we definitely see that from Kariossa at this point.
Mhm.
Just because that's good skull routing. Especially doing Jabu, one of your medallion dungeons.
Right, yeah. So you get 4 skulls in Jabu, 2 in the river, presumably, and then at least 1 in the fountain. So somehow, again, despite the fact that they both did wildly different things there and ended up with different information and items and everything, they're still converging on the same route. We've seen this a lot today. So there is one other slight difference here, which is that Kariossa is going to have to walk up Zora River. Phoenix has the scale. So I wonder if we'll see Phoenix go Serenade here and, yeah,
There it is.
dive into Domain and go from there. Also, just an interesting point. Remember earlier, we were talking about the fact that there were 4 items missing that were required to beat the game.
Right.
One of those has now been found, Ruto's letter. So we're at 3 items missing and 2 Way of the Hero hints. So you've got to imagine that either they get access to Spirit from Ice Cavern, or they find their long shot to give them access to Spirit, and then Spirit has Dins to get to Shadow, which has the light arrows, or Shadow could have the long shot to get to Requiem. It's possible that it's like the Mirror Shield or even a slingshot at this point, but I think it's more likely that basically there are 3 pieces within that unlock each other: the Requiem, the Din's Fire, and the long shot, and it's which ones unlock which.
Right, and to note, Dins can't be in Shadow, so of the 3, only 2 could possibly be in Shadow.
Right. So yeah, Requiem gives them the Spirit Way of the Hero, which could be long shot or Dins. It could also be light arrows if that's the last one of the 3. But yeah, everything has to, like, if they get Dins first, then Shadow presumably gives them the long shot, which leads them to Requiem, which leads them to the light arrows. There was a Zora tunic on Goma. If it is actually the slingshot for that, that's... Oh no.
So there's more bait in play too.
Mirror Shield for Epona's song to get to the Gerudo Fortress area.
That time of day is great for Phoenix.
Yeah, I was about to say, like, oh, Phoenix is going from domain down to river. That's surprising, but no, Phoenix doesn't have a letter. Yeah.
Also worth considering, if you find the long shot somewhere along the way, then you have spirit access and you don't need Requiem of Spirit.
Right, true, true. We haven't found the lens. Right. So that was one of the big things that came up in this tournament was, you know, in Season 2, there were a lot of tricks enabled that weren't in the qualifiers, and one of those things was lens was only required for the treasure chest minigame and nothing else. Except then there was a lot of kind of discussion around the fact that the rule set changed partway through, because it's, yes, the runners are better, like, have qualified, we're expecting them to be, you know, for the most part, able to do the tricks that enabled, so that's fine. But that's not really what they qualified on. Settings changed, sorry. And this year there was a very much a push to have it so that it was consistent the entire way through. So lens is required. That is still a bait that's out there.
But counterpoint to that, I think when the settings are more user friendly, let's say.
Yes, yeah.
The onus is on an experienced runner to know when such a thing is bait and when it isn't.
Right. Also, for what it's worth at this point, the lens cannot be Way of the Hero at this stage. Because either they get the long shot to cross, but then they could also get all 3 songs. So they could also get Requiem. Or they don't get the long shot to cross, they get Eponas and the hover boots, but in order to get Eponas, they need spirit access anyway, so they'd already have Requiem. Oh, Skullmask is dead.
Also, Domain is dead. I think that hint said.
Good
after
timing.
both of our runners have just completed it. And we already had one hint for a location there.
And that is finally, yeah, all of our hints then.
We are all knowing. Phoenix checking Tech Type Grotto here.
We haven't actually seen this one yet, have we?
No, I do not believe so. It's been available for a while now, too. Just a purple rupee. And, oh, this is... I admire this routing so much, Phoenix.
I'm surprised to see it, because this is something where I think you're going to assume a lot of people will have already done it. At the same time, you know, we were talking earlier about the fact that more and more people are skipping Gerudo Valley as child.
I admire it more for not so much doing a 2 Sphere 0 checks, or Sphere 0 meaning very early in the game checks, early availability and logic at such a late stage, as much as this time of day is perfect again. It's just now turning to night. We should have access to this skull here.
Phoenix
A little early, just gonna forego that one, I guess. It was mostly perfect.
I wonder if we'll see Phoenix go back to Deku Tree for the skull now. I definitely need to ask about that one.
A bomb bag.
Wow, that would have been useful quite a bit earlier. So yeah, we have not seen chickens yet, and I doubt we're going to at this rate. Unless it's the long shot or the light arrows. I don't think it can be lights at this point. I don't think it's very likely to be lights, let's say.
I couldn't make out what it was, so... Oh!
A slingshot in Jabu.
And I believe that is your first logical slingshot, which...
That was the other 50 hit?
It's the other 50 hit! Somebody called it, yeah.
Wow.
Somebody called it.
Yep, okay. Okay.
So, screw you, meta. Screw you, new meta.
Early Garuna Valley would have been amazing. So 45 skulls right now for Phoenix. Kariossa throwing Ruto against the door.
You're very angry.
See, this is surprising. Like, I'm curious where Phoenix goes from here, because if your plan is to go to fire, do you really want to go out of your way to get the skulls in Gerudo Valley and so on? Because that feels like the main reason Phoenix went to Gerudo Valley was that one skull, and like, one skull and 2 checks doesn't feel great. I mean, it was pretty good. But...
And, I mean, at that point, it's a meta game to the meta game is like,
yeah.
okay, I don't know if my opponents did this early, but maybe if I expect him not to do that early, did he do it early because I don't expect him to do it early? And if so, what am I missing out on?
Right, it ends up in that good old situation where you're like, maybe they think I did this, so I'll do the opposite. But maybe they'll think I did that, so now I have to do the opposite.
Right. The wine in front of me.
Right in front of me. Good old going in circles and ending up at, it's a 50-50. You pick one.
And in the end, both glasses are poison.
Yeah, the truth is, 2 hours 15 Gerudo Valley is just bad either way. You either are behind your opponent, or like you're wasting. Like, no matter which way you do it, you're not going to be happy with it.
But this is a return to fire, which Kariossa has had time to make up some ground.
Right? Yeah, Phoenix will be happy with this play eventually, but that'll be 48 from fire, and then yeah, just get the last 2 in Jabu.
Phoenix is pretty much out of locations.
Yes.
As far as progression goes, even Hover Boots doesn't really open anything for him, so there's no, like, This pushes 50 and also is more checks.
Right, the only thing the hover boots would open is more fire. So, it's a perfect place to go to. Also, it came up in chat briefly there, and I do want to touch on it. There is very much this idea in a 1v1 that you are always behind. You always assume your opponent is playing perfectly, and every mistake just builds up and builds up. And it's one of those kind of almost mind games that a lot of people play on themselves. That you figure that if you're doing something late, your opponent's already done it. And if you're doing something early, well, your opponent's also doing it, so it doesn't matter. And it's getting out of that kind of mindset that you've got to, people have to basically teach themselves that nobody can do everything and you're allowed some level of mistakes and different routing and whatever. At the same time, that doesn't stop the play feeling bad. It's just overcoming that bad feeling and going, just because it feels bad doesn't mean it is bad. And to be fair, I guess the opposite is also true, in that Phoenix right now probably feels okay about going to Deep Fire, because, well, how often do people go to Deep Fire? But
Reality is his opponent did that 20 minutes ago.
before a lot of other stuff, yeah. That's one way to do it.
Nothing too important in Javu. You just get that slingshot, which only gives you access to one check you didn't have before.
Right, yeah. It's not a whole lot. I will say, the idea of feeling like your opponent has done something in a 1v1 is something that comes up a lot in bingo races. And we've already established, Phoenix has a background of OT bingo races. So I wonder if there's that mentality there, and more importantly, I wonder if Phoenix has experience with ignoring that idea of my opponent may or may not have done these things. Because that's also something that, yes, it comes up in bingo races, and as a result, it's something that you use to kind of trick your opponents more in bingo. I know there was one recently where it was like 6 compasses was one of the squares. And so, like, if a couple of players have marked 6 compasses and you're going, well, they haven't marked these squares, so they've done these dungeons, so I'm not going to go to that dungeon that they've definitely done. I think it was Ice Cavern. I'm not going to go to Ice Cavern because they've definitely done Ice Cavern because they've not marked the Water Temple squares. So Phoenix will have experience with that whole, my opponent may have done these things, and metagaming around that. But that also means having experience of knowing when to play into it and when to just treat it as bait.
I think the biggest difference there is in a bingo setting, you know what your opponent has marked. You know what they have done.
True.
In this, you don't. You only guess. You can go off tendencies, but there's nothing to tell you, like, you know, oh, well, it must be fire outside of, you know, well, I have no other checks in logic, pretty much.
Yeah. I will say Kariossa will 100% feel behind. Like, Phoenix, maybe not, who knows. Kariossa 100% feels behind because of how late that 50 skull hint came.
Mm-hmm.
And it was in a fairly, you know, easy to reach location.
And yeah, we are seeing that return to forest. This should go pretty quickly.
Right, no long shot to get the other courtyard one from the bottom, but I mean, maybe you just skip it at that point and just take 4 here and leave.
There is the advantage of the Jabu skulls, but other than that,
right. I was going to say this is evened up notably because Phoenix is gonna go do Jabu after this, and that'll be 50 skulls. And so the question is, does Kariossa reach 50 skulls before Phoenix finishes Jabu?
and I guess where do you get those skulls from?
Yeah.
'Cause, like, the plan here seems to be at least do the easy skulls around here.
So thinking from Kariossa's position, you get the hover boots now, and it unlocks nothing. Kariossa should be going to Ice Cavern.
Right.
And I assume probably will, because there's, you know, at least 3 skulls around there. But, and we'll be at Forest perfectly for it. And just, like, minuet back out of here and walk out. And right on cue, yep. So, yeah, I assume this is an Ice Cavern play, and honestly, that's probably going to give Kariossa the lead.
Yeah, pretty much. Longshot has to be in that area, right?
Or Requiem.
Or Requiem in Ice Cavern, right?
Or, I guess, arguably, Dins, and then Longshot and Shadow, and then Light Arrows and Spirit. This is kind of what I was saying earlier, is like we've got 3 things missing, which are Light Arrows, Dins, and Longshot. But the fact that both Shadow and Spirit are Way of the Hero, we basically have it replace Lights with Requiem, and it's basically Requiem, Dins, and Longshot, and they lock each other in some way. Like, one leads to another, and Phoenix is going to keep going? I guess you get this next check and see if it's a key. Interesting. Why would you go to the hammer chest here?
I guess because if that's a key, then you can just drop down if it's not.
But, it's so much
If
smaller.
highest moron is a key, then you have to go back out and do the whole loop anyway. Just kind of eat the time.
I don't know. I don't buy it. I feel like the time... Knowing that you're losing this time isn't worth potentially saving that, I guess. So this is another good flare dancer fight. Yikes. I was going to say, we don't tend to see hook shot strats for flare dancer offering. We definitely don't see bow strats. Bomb? Phoenix! Does Phoenix know you can hammer flare dancers?
I don't know.
No way. There's no way you bomb a flare dancer if you know you can use the hammer, right?
Unless you don't have the hammer, but
Right.
it does, so...
Yeah. Guess we got a couple of questions for Phoenix after this. Oh, that is a point actually. If his experience is with vanilla,
then you don't have the hammer typically
Yeah.
for at least the first fight. Not a lot of style points gained in that one.
but then hammers the switch for the hammer chest. I'm a little bit clueless right now. I'm not gonna lie.
I mean, you can store that and then crouch stab through the Song of Time block. That's key. But yeah, this is all just time wasted here.
Oh, didn't even land.
Time very wasted.
Kariossa is almost certainly ahead at this point.
Yeah.
Between being in Ice Cavern and having Jabu done, and being higher on skulls now. I guess the exception would be if the chest Phoenix is about to open is just Din's Fire or the long shot. But yeah, I don't see it. No.
Nope. And this is why I said, don't call it yet. There's plenty of seed ahead.
All it took was one deep fire Ruto's letter and everything turned around. Also, as per usual, I did not see the bottom of the lake at all.
Whatever it was wasn't important. Fire arrows were also in fire, but not as far up as Ruto's. I think ice makes the most sense here, especially just for check density.
Mm-hmm.
And then I think likelihood is that fine. You get Requiem here, get your long shot in Spirit. Or
Right,
get your
if there's nothing in ice, if this is, no items, prelude, where do you even go? Like, what's left? You have Target in the Woods. Left side Goron City. I don't think we've seen that yet.
Both runners have checked it.
Yeah, they strength 2'd it earlier, never mind. I was thinking we didn't see it with the hammer, but no, we didn't. It's just chickens and Target in the Woods, I think. There's no wasteland access. We've seen all of the Hyrule Field grottos from at least Phoenix. like if it's not Ice Cavern, it's literally I think 2 checks. It's Ice Cavern.
There it is.
Interesting that Kariossa chooses to continue here. There's a 1 in 3.
Because he needs the skulls.
Oh, that's true, that's true.
And if he gets Requiem, that opens up more stuff.
It's a 1 in 3 though. Are you like you've got to assume at this point it's long shot in shadow, right?
Well, no, it could be Lights in Shadow, and now long shot in Spirit.
It could, and I guess you want to clear it while you're here, and yeah, you want to just clear everything while you're at it, but yeah, I don't know.
That's also true. Mirror is still the wild card there.
I don't see it happening.
I'm thinking that's less likely now. That's only.
So Kariossa is rushing ahead now. I like this a lot. There isn't any like pair of items that could still bait, right?
Anything that would be pretty direct at this point, except Mirror Shield.
Right. Well, but as in like even if you go to Shadow, oh, I guess yeah. If you go to Shadow and get Mirror Shield, and then go to Spirit and get Lights, if the long shot's in Ice Cavern. Because Kariossa just go moded.
And GTG's kind of the wild card here, like Gerudo Training Grounds.
Mm-hmm.
If you get Mirror Shield in Shadow, Lights in Spirit, then you're expected to beat Spirit to get to GTG to get your long shot.
Right.
I feel like that's the worst case scenario.
So I think the funny thing is, like, Mirror Shield in Shadow and then whatever item in Spirit, Light Arrows in Spirit, leaves room for one more unknown location. That's the important part there. So Kariossa here just skipped a bunch of chests in Ice Cavern going, well, I'm missing 2 items and I've got 2 Way of the Hero hints. Put the 2 and 2 together and I'm in go mode. Ignoring the fact that, yeah, your next area is Shadow, that gives you that gives you one Way of the Hero, but it could just take you to the other one.
And I'll say this, Kariossa's a bit lax on hints. There's Requiem. Because doing the Kokiri check, he did the Goron, he made an attempt at Goron Pot before, I think, remembering that it was hinted dead.
Going to Spirit first. I remember about 2 hours ago in this seed, we were talking about whether to go to Death Mountain Crater or Dodongo's Cavern first, at a point where they had bombs but no hammer, no hookshot, no hovers. And we said, you probably do Dodongo's Cavern first, because there's a chance you find one of those items there. You do the place that you can full clear first, because it might unlock things for you in the other location afterwards. So Spirit first confuses me.
Because it depends if you think that you can reach go mode.
Well, so chat's saying about the skulls, and I get that, but he's, what, 2 away? Hasn't picked up one in adult Kakariko.
There's one easy skull here. You walk outside and get Sun Song. Now you can get a second one outside. And also, are you keylocked? Which, no, you are not.
Okay, yeah, actually, checking the key lock is a big deal as well, because you want to come back as a child if you are. So I guess that makes sense. that part I can get. I don't think skulls are a good reason to do this because there are so many other skulls on your route anyway that I don't know. There's so many that you could go and get because Kariossa has skipped a lot.
And the flip side is, do you play for the best case scenario, where you find one of your go mode items here, find either lights or long shot, then you just rush shadow. And there it is.
All right, never mind then. That does everything. I think that was a risky play from Kariossa, but obviously
But
a
it
risky
paid
play
off.
doesn't A, make it wrong, and B, it obviously paid off.
Phoenix has done most of water, so once he gets the long shot, he can just go and do it.
Yeah.
But he is now falling seriously behind now.
Also, for the record, the reason I was saying I thought that was a bad play was because Kariossa was just basically assuming two Way of the Heroes, 2 items, that's it. Ignoring the fact that Shadow's Way of the Hero could have been the Mirror Shield to unlock whatever was Way of the Hero in Spirit. That was the reason it was a risky play. Not necessarily a bad play, but a risky one. There was definitely a gamble involved. As it goes, it didn't work out like that. And Kariossa's pretty much in go mode at this point. There's a whole bunch of items that could show up in Shadow, but every single one points you to another location. If you get the Mirror Shield, then you know that you go and do at least check GTG, Grid of Training Grounds first.
Right, if Mirror Shield shows up here, then you say, is it like a high up check in Spirit, or is it all dungeons, I need to get Epona's song?
Right. There's still only a handful of locations worth going to at that point. If it's strength 3, then you go straight to Ganon's outside Ganon's castle. But yeah, you can basically follow every step from this point on. I'm so happy everyone is back to normal.
Here, have some boots. This is the other interesting thing. And yes, Phoenix should have 50 at this point.
Yeah, for sure.
Phoenix is going to basically go in reverse getting these items. So
yes, yeah.
he'll do Shadow first, and then if the long shot's here, then what do you?
Well, he's gonna have to get Bins, and then yeah.
Right, he still has to go to ice.
And then the question again becomes, does he go on to get Requiem at the end of it? Does he go to Shadow or Spirit first? Also, yeah, for the record, there's like still 4 or 5 locations that could hold the long shot at this point. It's most likely Shadow, but it could be Strength 3 for outside Ganon's Castle, it could be Mirror Shield for Spirit, it could be Mirror Shield for Gerudo Training Ground or Gerudo Fortress logic, or I guess it can't be Big Pose, we already have a market in Foolish Choice as a hint.
Yeah, it is unfortunately a little late for a bet.
A bit too much was kind of spelled out with the hints, I think. Like, the mid-game, you just had to go hunting for items, but the late game has been kind of spelled out.
Yeah, tunics were very early, actually. And
one on Goma and one on Talon's chickens.
right. And both wallet. So.
And just to top it off, the slingshot that we have was fire locked, but the Goma was the Zora tunic and Talon was the Goron tunic, so the one that was fire locked didn't lock the Goron tunic. So I guess the worst case scenario now, if that's what people want to play for, is Mirror Temple in Shadow, Mirror Shield in Shadow to go to Spirit Temple to get, just to beat the dungeon, to get Epona's Song, to go to, I would probably say Horseback Archery is worse, because that means you actually have to beat Spirit. So Horseback Archery for Strength 3, and then outside Ganon's Castle for the long shot. That's probably the worst case scenario. I was going to say Phoenix going back to adult pretty quickly here, but I mean, I guess he doesn't have much else to do.
Yeah, I mean, this seed has some very strong bottlenecks, and that kind of makes all the difference when you don't have any options. You have to go with what's available, and I think that showcases Phoenix has a very good understanding of the logic in terms of like, okay, what can I do? What is possible here? What should I do? And at the same time, there's not a lot of option to break it. Like, Requiem is behind Dins, so you can't even go reverse. Say, well, let's say GTG's required.
And I mean, we spoke earlier about these two runners and the fact that Phoenix is known, Phoenix is fairly new to like the rando community, but has this background, has the execution edge, is a very thorough, very efficient player who's used to very much figuring out, that's the mirror shield.
Oh, that's the mirror shield. So you're saying there's a chance.
But yeah, Phoenix is someone who's, very good at figuring out like an efficient route, has the bingo experience, is good at the like kind of route side of rando. Kariossa is a very aggressive player. Kariossa is the kind of person who will take a lot of risks. I don't know if at the point that Kariossa did Deep Fire, I would have called it a huge risk. But I would have said it was definitely not the safest to play.
I mean, at that point, from our perspective of having knowledge, Kariossa, that was, if there was nothing in Deep Fire, that was it for Kariossa.
Golds as well?
Oh, this is perfect.
Oh, wow.
This is unbelievable, and I do love the glitchless swag from Kariossa. Just casually get damage boosted onto the spike traps. It's your glitchless ground jumps right there. Just Bongo Bongo is waiting at the end to ruin everything.
Wait a second. Goron City was Way of the Hero, yes. I just clicked this as well. Goron City had Strength 2, Way of the Hero. Strength 3 was not Strength 2 locked. It's outside Ganon's castle.
Oh. Oh hoo hoo hoo. So there it is then. And you check that first, because it's much faster than GTG or doing the rest of Spirit.
Right, yeah. The other thing is, I think as well, we said about, the runners filled in survey, like little questionnaires so that we get to like know a bit about them. So one of the questions was, what do you think is your biggest strength? And Phoenix spoke about the, bingo experience and like being able to quickly adjust a route on the fly and figure out, where to go next. Kariossa said probably his logic understanding. So, I mean, I guess we'll see how far back, Kariossa remembers the first, hour of this seed? And yeah, how if Kariossa can follow that through to outside Ganon's castle.
Yeah, that's. I mean. Wow. That's brilliant. That is brilliant. I really love this seed. This is a great, interesting seed for the puzzle that we have here.
Right, it's one of those ones that like the hints have told you what to do for the most part, except for fire, I guess. But you've got to, figure all of that out, connect those dots. Which, if you're given the dots, if you're just like handed the hints and the items, then it's fairly simple. Whether you remember it this far into a seed while trying to figure out where to go next and focusing on execution and everything else at the same time, that's a different question. I was just gonna neglect. I was just gonna not mention that one. I was just gonna not talk about the green rupee. The worst item in the game.
The green rupee, there is exactly one green rupee in the item pool, and so it is a meme that your run is quote unquote valid, because you would never skip that. We're playing on the level, right? So, but it's not a good method of validation by any means.
It's not a good meme by any means.
It's not a great meme either.
I feel like my commentary today, I've just made an enemy of like half the viewers. So.
Now, I do think we're closing on the end here, and I think anything can happen. Anything can happen. Don't know.
It definitely looks like Kariossa should have this.
it looks that way. And it's one of those things that I love about Ocarina of Time Randomizer is really that in any given seed, anybody does have a chance to win. Like, no matter who the quote unquote, better player is, there is still an opportunity within, like, certain tiers that a player that's not as skilled could ultimately win.
Also, yeah, so chat pointing out here, Kariossa picking up all of these chests here because Shadow's still way of a hero and you're still missing the long shot and hasn't connected that dot with strength 3 yet then.
But I still think even if you don't, puzzle it out, that's the first place you go. Just because it takes the least amount of time.
So I'm gonna say two things here. Firstly, yes, I agree with you entirely. I think it's the fastest check. I think it's the best check to do at that point. And obviously, if you remember that Strength 2 was Way of the Hero in Goron City, you connect the dots and go, okay, this has to be the last item. But the second point is that Kariossa, we've established, is a very risky player who does not always go for the most logical option.
Sure.
Like, Kariossa did Deep Fire before doing, like, any of the Hyrule Field grottos. So, I think it's likely that Kariossa goes straight to the Ganon's Castle Fairy, but that doesn't guarantee it.
I just...
Just to touch on that in chat, Shadow being Way the Hero is a good reason to do the final checks there, because as far as he's concerned, if it's just Shadow Way the Hero, he's looking for the long shot. And so he's fine checking the final checks there. The thing that he's slipped up on with that is Goron City was Way of the Hero, and all that was there was a second strength upgrade. And neither of them have been able to get to... Well, Spirit only had light arrows, and there was nothing. They haven't touched GTG. There was nothing in the Goron City maze, which means that the strength in Goron City could have been strength 3 and was still Way of the Hero.
But he knows.
He's here at least, so
He's making the play.
yeah.
And this also makes the play to go Spirit when he did even better. And like, it's a brilliant gamble in hindsight. And I mean, a gamble either looks brilliant or foolish if you make the right call or don't. But this one looks brilliant. Eat rock.
So, unless everything's gone wrong here, we should see a long shot.
How bad are we?
Nope, there we are.
Nope, not at all.
Since it has come up in chat, by the way, if we still don't know if we will get these runners in for interviews, but if we do, you know, there's definitely some things we're going to have to ask about. I know I've got noted that we need to ask Phoenix about flare dancers and the skull and Deku tree, and yeah, Kariossa for the Goron City hint.
So I guess the big time factor here is what route does Kariossa take through water, because depending on if Phoenix puts it together.
Right, yeah, Phoenix sees that strength 3 and connects the dots, and the keys were quite early. Like, the keys were fairly early in Shadow, so Phoenix would get to skip a lot of Shadow.
The scale is in the river chest in Water Temple.
Right, yeah. Kariossa over here throwing for content. I imagine this is the pressure situation, you know your opponent hasn't finished, you've just got your final item, you rush to finish, you're like, okay, I've got this, please tell me I'm ahead, like I just starting to panic a little bit. We've definitely seen it in a few of these matches. People kind of either right at the start or right at the end starting to like slip on the execution a little bit.
I mean, your nerves have to be going crazy. It's a happy 3-hour mark, by the way. But hitting the 3-hour mark is fairly rare these days, especially for a runner at a high level.
And yeah, every bracket match so far.
Which is crazy considering what we had during qualifiers.
I think we've already had more races go over 3 hours for the first finish in bracket than we did in qualifiers. Keeping in mind that's 16 qualifiers and what, 4 bracket matches? 5, this will be 5.
And we even had several sub-2 qualifier matches, so
yeah.
Shows you what the talent level is capable of here. Oh, we burned all our jet seeds on qualifiers, and I wish we hadn't. This is far more fun than any of those.
Also, the boss key in water was... Is it Darklink?
Yes, Darklink. So, with this, Kariossa is kind of committing to clearing more of water than is actually necessary. Which, for Phoenix, that's good. It buys him a little time. For the viewers, it's the tension and
as soon as Phoenix sees that, now is the question of whether he connects the dots. And we're not going to know until obviously he's got every key. Because he still has to, right now, open up all the chests for the keys anyway. But as soon as he gets the last key, we'll see if Phoenix go modes the rest of Shadow. And I guess, to be fair, we'll see if Phoenix has time to go mode the rest of Shadow, given that Kariossa... Oh no, Phoenix, that's...
doesn't help.
Yeah, this is something I've seen a lot of people doing recently, is landing on that platform in between.
Probably good for timing.
It's just...
I've not seen this. Okay.
Oh, this is just lining up in the corner, so yeah.
Oh, hovers.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of people landing on that platform in Shadow recently, and it's, I don't know, kind of surprising when I would say most people land on that kind of thin platform to the right. But it's definitely a big cost if you don't land on that platform.
Yeah, that's kind of its own risk too, especially in the initial run through of that room where you start back at the behind the Skulltulas.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
I don't know if it's nerves setting in, but we were seeing very clean execution from Phoenix early on, and now a little sloppier. A few mistakes.
Yeah, they've both been a little bit shaky for the last 5-10 minutes. So Phoenix needs one more key. I'm always bad at counting keys in Shadow, but
yeah, one more key, one small key.
And then we'll see if Phoenix go modes the rest of Shadow and just, rush to the end. Don't open any of the chests.
And really, there's not a ton of room for bait anymore, right? I mean, in Phoenix's case, there is.
I mean, nothing, right, for Phoenix at this point.
Right.
You know the gold gauntlet's a way of the hero, and you know that Spirit's way of the hero, and you've got everything to clear it. So, in Phoenix's case, you've got 2 things that have items and 2 items.
Well, I mean, he's still doing checks, so...
Well, yeah. Yeah, I kind of wonder if that's autopilot, or if that's... The final maze will be the real test. That's where people kind of stop to think, I've got my boss key, I've got my 1 key left.
Yeah, it's unusual for somebody to just speed through that room and not... and just, go through the locked door. Yeah, the boss key was, I believe, the first chest, the map chest, or whatever in that chest.
Also, Kakariko wasn't hinted way of the hero, at least, but... Actually, I don't think Kakariko was the seed, was it?
It was not hinted way of the hero.
It had Saria's song with Minuet in the graveyard. No, okay, it was. Yeah, it absolutely was, because Minuet check was Zelda's Lullaby. So you needed Zelda's Lullaby to get Minuet, and you needed Saria's to get to Zelda's Lullaby.
Oh, Jason, thank you for the sub. 1 whole year of being subbed to Zelda speedruns. Appreciate your support.
Also, a quick reminder that if people sub to ZSR now, between now and AGDQ, we do have a current sub goal of Trez versus ATZ in Iron Boots rematch live at GDQ. So if people want to see that happen again in person with them sat next to each other, and I'm going to assume Trez will just like be trying to put off an at the entire time. If you want to see that, get those subs in. That is, the first race was incredible for anyone who missed it. It was absolutely hilarious from start to finish. I think ATZ won while Trez was that one medallion that was Deku Tree. But it was a hell of a race. Just so funny to watch. So if you want to see that again, got a couple of weeks, week or two to GDQ.
I believe GDQ starts
about a week, right?
The week after. Not much time. But there are a lot of brackets matches coming your way. More of this quality content right here. And other Zelda speedrun stuff too. Why it's Zelda speedruns.
Also, yeah, Phoenix did go and check the final chests there.
Oh, no, has not put the logic together, so...
No, so it's probably decided with that.
We are probably less than 10 minutes from seeing a finish here.
Like, that's the thing. Phoenix knew that one of the items was in Spirit and one of them was on... Or, okay, if you follow the hints that Phoenix had, you could figure out that one was on Ganon's Castle and one was in Spirit, and not know which was which, but...
Mr. Sevic, thank you for the 5 gift subs. That's pretty neat. Thank you for your support, Zelda Speedrun. Why isn't ATZ versus Trez up on YouTube? That's a question for Trez. He's the one who does all the uploading for ZSR. Wow. Get your ZSRs blame Trez. ZSR blame Trez's in chat.
Alrighty, Kariossa's out of there. So this is something of an upset. I guess PhoenixFeather being the 7th seed. I mean, we mentioned this quite a bit earlier. Both of these runners started playing Rando this year. Which, you know, I can get away with saying for 2 more days. Or today and tomorrow. But,
Within the past year.
yeah. They both started playing in 2019. So I guess PhoenixFeather being 7th seed is a hell of a performance. Like, it's arguable that that was a strong performance, and this isn't much of an upset, and it's arguable that this is a big upset, and but no, both of them started playing Rando after Season 2 had finished. Phoenix has bingo background and some speedrunning background where Kariossa doesn't. So, but we mentioned it earlier, Kariossa is a very aggressive player. Kariossa is somebody who will occasionally take a couple of risks or has a kind of good mind for the logic as well, and it paid off.
And it was basically that fire play that it was do or die, and that was because if that was nothing, then Kariossa was pretty much done.
Right.
Because he didn't know 50 skulls at that point. Was kind of wasting like a lot of time if that wasn't, the way to go. And it worked out for him, and it totally flipped the script where, people, and it reasonably looked like the match was going the other way.
Right. For a long time, it was, okay, Kariossa has to do something to come back into this. This is Phoenix's race to lose, and all of a sudden, Kariossa just flipped everything on its head with the one play into fire. Yeah, for people just joining, you're here just in time for the end of this race. It's 3 1/4, another 3+ hour bracket race. It was a 30 skull hook shot, 50 skull hovers, and deep fire seeds. So, yeah, bit of a spicy one.
There's still room for the abysmal Ganon fight here.
Knocked down, crushed by a falling platform, void out. So I'm going to hazard a guess here that Phoenix will go to Spirit first. Just knowing it's Way of the Hero, it's got to have the light arrows at that point. But
yeah, I mean, it makes the most sense, but you don't know how deep in Spirit you're going to have to go.
Yeah, and it's just a case of, Phoenix can go pick up the light arrows here and then maybe play Prelude, and that's about it. Wait, what?
Son.
Did Phoenix not get the Spirit? No, Phoenix must have had the Spirit hint.
Yeah, it was
outside the castle.
On the way to Hyrule Castle, yeah.
Yeah. Is Phoenix gonna go pick up the Ganondorf hint from there?
He might. I mean, there's not even bait left.
No, yeah, it just absolutely has to be in Spirit. Not that it means much. Like we were saying, it's no time to get the hint.
Yeah,
Barely would have had time to get the lights.
he's not gonna make it there to get that hint.
Yeah, even if Phoenix had gone directly for the lights there, it still wouldn't have been much. And there's so much that could have swung this seed as well. Like, if either of them had done Gerudo Valley early, then they'd have picked up that 50 hint far earlier. That's probably the biggest thing there, I guess. I guess they would have had a bomb bag a little earlier as well. Not much earlier.
I still think Phoenix is rounding to that point, and the skull rounding up to that point before the 50 hint was still better than Kariossa's, but
I agree.
And it does not matter, because Kariossa is your winner here today. GG's, everybody.
Like we say, sometimes you can, Phoenix was the higher seed. Kariossa might have thought, I have to play a little riskier, and it paid off. Kariossa coming in strong with the win there. I wonder if...
And I'll also say this. It's outside of maybe the top 5 or 6. The skill gap isn't that large among the top 32.
Right, for sure.
So a lot of these matches can be coin flips. The seeding not really be all that relevant. Yes. Glitchy Montu.
Yeah, Glitchy sat in 13th seed, but played like 5 qualifiers only.
Glitchymon, for those who don't know, is the current world record holder for Ocarina of Time 100%.
But yeah, obviously, I mean, we've already seen in the races that have happened so far that pretty much anything could happen in these races, and well, we've seen 31 beat 2, and now we've seen 26 beat 7.
You're gonna see shortly if our runners will be joining us for an follow-up race.
I was gonna say, chat, talking about Glitchy with the seeding difference, it does mean that, assuming the higher seeds win their matches, Glitchy is on for a round 2 match versus what the hell's happened. So yeah, that lower seed could be pretty bad, pretty rough.
High quality sand.
That's gonna be a hell of a round 2 match, like.
Where can you find the bracket? Somebody who knows the chat commands.
I think it's just bracket.
There you go. All right, and both of our runners will be joining us for an interview here.
Hello.
Hello, welcome.
Hello. Hey.
Well, first of all, congratulations, Kariossa. Commiserations, Phoenix.
Thanks.
That was a hell of a race. I guess I'll start with, what did you both think of the seed?
Bud.
Yeah,
The
it
team
made me very
lost.
sad. It's definitely the worst seed I've done in a while.
Yeah, it was interesting from our end because it was a long time before even we discovered that it was 50 skulls. And then after that, I think, Phoenix, you saw 50 skulls quite a while before Kariossa had. And so for a long time it was, oh, how long is it going to take to catch up? How long, you're going to have to go back into forest and back into fire, and then Kariossa kept going through fire and picked up the letter, and then all of a sudden the whole race has turned on its head.
Yeah, I figured that was definitely my biggest mistake, was not clearing fire. I sort of knew as soon as I left it that that was a mistake, just because like there wasn't actually a whole lot else I could have done. Um, I feel like usually I leave fire early like that, and it's the right play, but this time I'm pretty sure it was the wrong one, just because there's like really nowhere else for me to go except like a few overworld checks.
Yeah, seemed like the seed bottlenecked quite a bit at points. Both of you ended up grinding for 30 skulls at the same time because there was nothing else that was not hookshot locked. And then fire also became that sort of same type of bottleneck. Now, as far as the shadow way of the hero, did either of you put together that it was for the gold gauntlets, or did you just kind of go there because it was the quickest and easiest thing to do afterwards?
I mean, because the Gauntity way of the hero for strength.
Yeah.
So
Because we were wondering, because both of you picked up the strength 3 and then got your last key and then still cleared the rest of shadow. So we were like, okay, is that just in case there's some bait left? Is that not connecting the dots in the logic?
yeah,
What was
just
it that
in
made
case.
you both just open them? Yeah, was it just the risk of missing something on the way?
Yeah, long shot could have been in shadow.
Right, I was thinking the same thing. Yeah, I didn't know for sure. If gold gauntlets was going to give anything, or if the mirror shield was. I guess it could have been for like all dungeons or something, but something else still could have been in the shadows. So I was just clearing it all out.
Right, okay. Because, yeah, we were saying the Goron City hint was... It took us a while to realize it, and then it was like, wait, Goron City only had strength 2. So it's got to be the strength.
That's true. I didn't think of that. Because what was the other strength? Was that Death Mountain Trail?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, that makes sense. Then it would have to be. Unless, what if like Spirit Temple had like Lens of Truth in it? Then wouldn't Goron City be like Way of Hero then for that strength upgrade? Because you need to get the Spirit to get like Lens of Truth to do Shadow.
Lens isn't for Shadow in these things. It's just
it's
for
not?
Wasteland. Yeah, Wasteland and S-Game.
Ooh, I did not know that. that's why I checked. That's why I checked that's why I checked the hint on Ganondorf, because I thought Lens could be Way of Hero and Spirit, and then Light Arrows could be somewhere else.
Right.
Okay.
There were a couple of other small things that came up that I kind of wanted to ask you about, Phoenix.
Yeah, there
One,
are a lot of stupid stuff.
there were 2 things that had us kind of questioning.
I know one of them. Yeah.
Sorry?
That's alright, go ahead. Yeah.
Did you say you know what one of them was? Because I'm curious to know what you think now.
Probably were y'all questioning the Deku tree?
Yes,
Yeah,
that was
so-
one of them.
So I went through like the backwards collision, I guess, of the web, and I wasn't entirely sure if that was allowed or not. So just to be on the safe side, I left without grabbing that Skulltula.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, is it allowed?
It is
I think
allowed, yes.
It is? Okay, that's what I figured, but I didn't want to take any chance of getting DQ'd in a bracket race, you know?
That makes sense. The other thing was your flare dancer fights and not
Yeah.
using the hammer on them.
Well, you see, I've been speedrunning this game for 7 years, and that's never happened to me before. So, like, I honestly had no idea what to do whenever it started, like, spinning around me. And I just kind of panicked. Yeah, I was trying the bow at first, but then I remembered that doesn't work, and I eventually got it with bombs. But yeah, hammer would have worked too. Now that
Right.
Yeah.
That's fair. That's fair.
Yeah. That was great.
So both of you, for your next opponent, will be up against someone from the Kierox versus Gavaroni match. Kariossa versus the winner, Phoenix versus the loser of that one. Is there anyone you'd rather face there for whatever reason? Do you have any thoughts on that matchup or those opponents?
I prefer Kierox because he's French.
I mean, I don't really care either way, but I'm pretty sure even if I win that losers bracket match, then I gotta play ATC. So, I really needed to win this one. So now I'm in big trouble. So yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna say, Kariossa, do you know more about Kirox's playstyle then, I guess? Do you have like more experience against each other in that as well?
I mean, I think we are at the same level, actually.
Fair.
Now, did that play in at all this seed in terms of like metagaming the other racer, like knowing their play style or what their tendencies were?
No.
No, I didn't really. I didn't really do a good job of doing that kind of research. No.
Same.
Do you think it's the kind of thing you'll do more going forwards, or are you just gonna play as you play and see what happens?
Yeah, just go.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe I will. Probably not, though. To be honest, I feel like I'm better off just doing my own thing.
That's fair. That's very fair. Alright. Well then, I guess, do you have any more questions? Do you have anything else you want to add?
No.
No, I think I'm good.
Alrighty then. Well, in that case, I guess we'll wrap things up here. So, firstly, thank you everyone for this. Thank you to our trackers. I'm gonna say Tommeltax? I'm worried about mispronouncing things now. Tommeltax and Faith. Thank you for, Trent for restreaming. Thank you to both of our runners, and good luck in the rest of your races.
Yeah, thanks for the restream, guys.
Yeah, thank you guys. This was a great match to watch. Very close, very back and forth. Looking forward to see how you both do going forward.
Thanks.
Yeah, GG from me as well. Thanks for the awesome race. Thanks to our commentators and thanks to our trackers. Without you, we wouldn't have such an awesome race. But what's in the horizon? First of all, the next year's upon us very soon. Hope all of you stay safe, stay healthy. Are we all getting into the next year, right? And next year, Friday, we have a Ocarina of Time match between Sansu versus Nevisto. This will be very hype. Friday, 2 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. UTC. Hope you all will be joining. And on Saturday, we will have another match. Exactly, Gavaroni versus Kirox. Well, you might have heard the name for our winner here. That will be Saturday, 2 p.m. Eastern or 7 p.m. UTC. Hope you all will be joining. It will be a lot of fun. We also have another great events coming up soon to ZSR. For instance, on New Year's, on the 1st of January, there will be a bye race of the Challenge Cup. Don't miss that as well. And with that said, this was an awesome restream. I'm sorry for the seed, even though it was great to watch. With that said, GG everyone. Hope you all had fun. See you on the next stream. Bye.
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 Bye.